Sadly, while they went through the trouble of making graphics for Mission Street and Grand Metropolis, they're only there for boss fights. I feel cheated. What's the point of making reimagined levels into just boss arenas? Where's the appeal? Emerald Coast is as they want Emerald Coast done right, which means it's the exact same level design with actual scripting. So you're not going to find yourself hugging the walls all the time because it actually takes control of Sonic for you. So that's good. You'll still spin dash into the ocean if you try to spin dash down the slope leading to the last loop of Act 1 though. There really should have been a dash pad there if you weren't supposed to spin dash to go faster down a downward slope. Which is Sonic in a sense, you know, of course you do that. Having all this scripting is good for preventing you from hugging the wall all the time. Especially the first one, which turns you around the corner. But all the scripting only serves as a highlight to how little there is to actually do in Emerald Coast. Even in the original, you would just progress. There's no platforming, and you're not really playing the level. But at least it can be forgiven because it was the beginner's level of SA1, so of course it's easy. And of course it's short, but this level really should have been positioned before Metal Harbor considering its difficulty. Silver is Sonic with a levitate that feels great to use, but unfortunately he has no homing attack at all. Instead you have to press Y twice to grab and throw aside enemies, and that's it. And considering that you can't use the camera stick to literally move around whatever you're holding any direction you want, which was my idea for basically fully fleshing out the telekinesis. Like basically making him like Star Killer. This, because you can still barely control the things that you're supposed to be controlling with telekinesis, this is still a disappointment in my books. They definitely could have done better with making him actually feel like you're playing as a telekinetic character. Because as it stands here, even though you can grab enemies in front of you and hold them still, it doesn't really matter. You might as well be throwing fire at them. It has the exact same effect. Especially annoying since a few random enemies like coconuts will flat out ignore his telekinesis and you'll get hurt for your efforts. How am I supposed to know that this enemy is magically immune to psychokinesis? Even though 6 didn't do that. I mean, at least you don't have to stun the enemies with a dumb shockwave to grab them. But, I mean, you'd have to be able to hold down a button for making your enemy be able to move further away from you to have full control over sending them wherever you want with the camera stick. Because otherwise they'd just be able to move, like, up and down and not back. But this game could have done it. I just don't see the point. And like in 06, you could pick up boxes with the psychokinesis, and you could basically pick up whatever you want. You could grab bullets and missiles and throw them back at the enemies. There's no steel girders to bend or stairs to create. You can't fly on top of things, making them fly. So, it's sad to say, but 06 still uses psychokinesis better. The only way they improved on it, aside from not having to stun enemies anymore, is that at least it feels scripted that you'll always throw one enemy into the other, rather than feeling completely uncontrollable and you can easily miss what you're trying to throw. From what little I've used of it, it seems all I have to do is press Y again, and it works. And another thing that makes Silver better is that he's also fast, like Sonic, with a spin dash and drift and everything. And because of this alone, I enjoy playing as him. He's basically Sonic if he had much better aerial capabilities. But he seems to put himself in danger every time he tries to fight enemies because he doesn't have a homing attack. So he might just be hit by the projectiles when he's trying to grab them. I don't know. Also, I discovered that apparently you can get an emblem from an A rank, too. I thought it was just the S rank. I don't know. Isn't that kind of confusing? They tell you it's only the S rank.
Here it comes!
As for Prison Lane, I really wanted to like it. I really did. Because I wanted to start liking the mech gameplay again ever since I revisited SA2 and realized that I didn't like it anymore.
But unfortunately, while they fix most of the problems, they also add some new ones. Prison Lane was a slog for me for a bunch of different reasons. At first I tried to play as Omega, who's a worthless character who sucks. Instead of playing like Gamma, he has nothing but extremely short-ranged attacks to fight with, and no homing attack at all, which feels really weird for every character, because every character has a spin dash and a drift anyways. And a stomp. So obviously I switched to the character the stage was actually designed for, Tails in his mech. And there are several problems. It feels like I have to spam the Y button to ensure that the enemies will actually get hit by my attacks, especially the shield bots, because they'll ignore my attacks completely sometimes. It honestly feels glitchy and unsatisfying, rather than as enjoyable as it was. I mean, at least you can't target stuff like random cameras on the walls or Parasol's Emerald Coast, because I really hated that about the mech gameplay. At least you're always targeting stuff you actually want to target, like item boxes and enemies. Like, it feels reliable trying to target what I actually want this time around. Reminds me of Gamma. And I love the way that the targeting reticule is all green and square. It looks very satisfying to target them successfully. And something I immediately noticed was the lack of an extremely annoying, high-pitched, droning beeping sound every time that I'm holding down the aim button. You don't really notice the absence of something like that until it's gone, but yeah, that was a problem SE2 had as well. But, while they did fix a lot of problems, and it definitely doesn't feel as bad to control MechTails as it used to be. Like, I've never heard him make the doom sound when I'm trying to move around in a circle with him. It feels like I can actually turn around well and basically control him well. But there are still some problems. I've noticed that I can't shoot behind bars sometimes. And worst of all, oh yeah, and the actual range of the shooting is actually not as long range as it should be, which is very easy to notice in the final room, because you can't target all of the enemies in the room once, which is really glaring. I'm surprised they didn't notice that issue. And here's the biggest problem, and I don't know if this is the gameplay's fault or the level just being glitched. There are two mandatory to kill enemies behind red gates that cannot be targeted at all, no matter what, without getting behind them first, which requires flying behind them. Or I guess you could spin dash jump from the roof. But either way, this means that this level absolutely requires a partner that isn't the Tails mech to complete it. You need to be able to get behind the red gate some other way than they intended you to. This is very frustrating. Tails feels like he's moving through a river of molasses every time he's not spin dashing and drifting, which you can't do all the time because of the goddamn bottomless pits everywhere that are always on all sides of you. Why are there even bottomless pits in a place like this to begin with? Why are there bottomless pits in an indoor prison designed by Gun? I mean, there isn't even any platforming anyway, so these don't really add to the challenge and make the platform more satisfying, because all you're doing is progressing. At least the stomping on springs mechanic came back. But that doesn't really help much if I can't target the enemy behind it by doing that anyways. So ultimately, you still have to fly. I mean, I guess it's meant for non-flying types to get to the top of the roof behind it. But still. Another fundamental problem I've noticed with the gameplay is that while the hover does send you upwards a little in a sort of double jump, it also forces you forwards from a standstill, which feels like extremely bad controls because I don't want to go forwards, especially since it can cause you to die 2 minutes in and start all the way back at the start of the level because of slippery controls. That's right, not only does the level basically rip off the exact same level design from the original, but it's got checkpoint starvation too. I don't remember that being a problem in the original level. Maybe it was, and maybe I just forgot. I mean, granted, I want to like this because they fixed most of the problems. They removed the terrible life bar that sucks, which is pretty much it's just artificial difficulty, and it just destroys the point of collecting rings because rings barely fill up the meter at all. So you got rid of that, and he controls well. He doesn't turn terribly. I actually feel like I can consistently target what I want to target, like I'm playing Gamma again. So that's good. I mean, I still miss his mode change that allows him to move faster when he starts going forwards enough. And that leads to my big problem. Tails feeling slow as molasses most of the time is the biggest thing that ruins his fun factor and made the level feel like a chore. It really feels like he's artificially being forced to be slow. It doesn't feel natural at all. In fact, it almost feels like he's slower than he was in SA2. And it doesn't even feel that necessary because, I mean, there are bottomless pits, but you're only going to fall into them if you actually try to go fast in this level through spin dashing and drifting. So what was the point of slowing him down? Making him feel slower than the original is just part of what makes it so frustrating. It is a disappointment too, because I really did want to like it. And like, I could, but if I didn't have to constantly spam the buttons to make sure that it would actually hit the enemies, and if I didn't have to deal with being so slow, then it would be really fun. And again, I really hate the fact that the Chaos Drives don't automatically get collected when you defeat enemies. Even in Sonic 06, when you defeated enemies, the energy balls that were supposed to fill up the gem meter would automatically go into Sonic when you defeated the enemies. You didn't have to manually walk into them precisely and break the entire pace of the level in the process. And even in Sonic Unleashed, the HD Werehog, well, not the HD, the Wii one, would automatically collect experience when you defeated enemies. You didn't have to manually aim yourself at them. I really like how they actually made a carrot bush. Like, it's not just the exact same type of tree. Like, they actually bothered to make bushes as well for the gardens. So that's pretty cool. I was not expecting to have a bush show up when I planted the carrot. So that's pretty cool. Although I didn't realize that it was a tree something thing that you could shake to get fruit out of it at first. Even though there was fruit there, I didn't really know what it was. So I shook it by accident. Also, I have no idea why they give you the option to demolish trees. What's the point? It feels like something you'll just do by accident. I haven't done it yet, but what's also pointless is the sheer amount of teams that you can choose, even though you're only going to choose custom character because you just want to make your own. What's the point? And now for Dawn Avenue, which is easily the treasure hunting level that I've had the worst experience with. And considering that I'm coming off of Tokyo, that's saying a lot. Although, granted, it wasn't with the treasure hunting gameplay itself. That was fine. Kind of. I mean, I love the fact that they removed the cars, because that was my least favorite thing about the original. I mean, they ripped off the exact same level design, but at the very least they removed the cars, because they completely destroyed the ability to use the speed sections as speed sections, because you would just run into the cars. But the big problem with the level design is that it's so samey. There's only one, like, there's the beginning section and the end section with a fountain. Those are the only areas that feel memorable. So it's very easy to keep going to dead ends and getting lost and forgetting where you've already been. And that's the definition of terrible level design for a gameplay style that's based around looking everywhere, and therefore you can't just you can't not know that you've been to someplace already. Samey level design is the worst kind of level design for a gameplay style like this. That's why Death Chamber and Egg Quarters had different colors. Like, they were color coded for a reason. Because otherwise they would all look exactly the same no matter where you went. But other than that, Dawn Avenue is fine. It's the big problem with this level is the mission where you're supposed to go to the goal ring. Because you think, oh, it's just fine. I just go to the goal ring where it was in SD1. And then you have this huge laser gate that cockblocks you and insults you and taunts you, saying, no, we don't like making things simple. We want to make things miserable for you. So go search for a whole bunch of switches that are hidden in the level and are really tiny, and you have no radar, so you have no idea where they are. When I last tried to play this mission, it took a half an hour, and I was miserable. I was practically on the verge of tears because I just hated this mission so much. Like there's one switch I can find, and then they pull a dick move on you. They're like, find the switch for the switch. Oh, that's so funny, right, guys? And there's also a Thundershoot panel that's completely caged in, and there's no indication of how to get rid of that cage. Like, I defeated all the enemies, and well, and guess what happens if you die in this level? Well, if you die because you were fighting enemies because you thought maybe that would get rid of all the cages, then it forgets everything that you did. So much for that. Now you gotta look for all those switches all over again. So yeah, I never did find all the switches, and I was never able to get to the goal ring because they decided to pull a colossal dick move on me. I don't think they should remove the radar at all, just for the sake of artificially adding challenge. I think it's by definition hard enough because the radar sucks, because it doesn't tell you the y-axis. You can't know if something's above you or below you, so you're always going to be wandering around aimlessly in a circle just because it's flashing. All you know is it's near. Not having a radar breaks it. I don't understand why they couldn't have made it like the balloons mission in like Wild Canyon, where you just find one specific area and there, all of them are there. I mean, it sounds lazy, but it's more fun to play. But yeah, here's Espio. Espio is Sonic, but better. Because if you hold LB and jump at a wall, you'll actually run up the wall like in Knuckles Chaotix, which is awesome. That's why he was like such a great character in that game, although I still play it as Mighty all the time. Because Mighty, when you actually know how to jump up a wall with him, he's actually better, he's the best character in the game. He's like Sonic, and he can go up a wall really fast. But it's cool that they decided to make a tribute to Knuckles Chaotix with Espio, because, I mean, the ninja stars and stuff are cool, I guess, but I never use any of the melee attacks anyways, especially now when you have the homing attack anyways. But being able to run up a wall is really cool. Just remember to jump at the very top of it, because for some reason Espio's too stupid to run up all the way to the top of it and climb up a ledge. Something that you could climb up a ledge by hanging on to it, even in Adventure 2. Even Adventure 2 they knew to do that. But yeah. So Espio is a great character. Kinda annoyed by his repetitive voice clips, as with Silver though. But yeah. I really hated the look for all the switches mission. Never did complete it. And look at how things turned out. I tried to go behind the Thundershoot panel, and I clipped through the wall, and I didn't know how to get back in. So I decided, maybe if I hit the switch, maybe if I hit this spring, it'll clip me back out. Oh, it's just going to... Oh. And this is a shining example of how scripted this game is, because you can't do anything once you hit that spring, because you're never going to land. It's not like the classic games where you hit a spring and you can still move around just fine. So, yeah. And I kind of had a panic attack because I thought, well, not really, but I kind of worried that I wasn't able to complete the recording because I was mashing the F9 button and nothing was happening. But thankfully, I was able to record it. Thank God. I was also worried that my computer had soft locked. That would have also been annoying. Because I have had occasions where, like in Sonic Generations, when the game froze in, like, Planet Wisp, the mod version that had colors level design, it froze, and so did my computer. So I couldn't even do anything or record it. But yeah, that was a perfect ending to a terrible mission. Seriously, I don't know who playtested this and decided it was a good idea. And so I decided to lead the level, and thankfully the game is kind enough to still remember that you collected Chaos Strides when you leave a level without beating it first. I don't think they did that in the adventure games. So that's really generous. I hate how if you enter the Chao Stadium without holding a Chao, you'll think that your controls are locking up because you can't go up to select Race and Karate because they're colored black and not grayed out. The problem that is confusing me is that you never had to personally carry Chao into the Chao Stadium in the adventure games. So it's obviously confusing for me because I'm trying to select Race or Karate and then select from a huge list of Chao. But I can't do that because it's not as streamlined. In a game that's supposed to be trying to be a successor to the Chao system of previous games, it's less streamlined. What were they thinking? They do have different level design for each cup for the races. Like Cup 2 is for swimming and Cup 3 is for climbing. So that's good. And they look good enough, but the courses are still just straight lines, narrow hallways like in Unleashed. So they still look kind of lazy, though not nearly as lazy as the Cup one, because that was literally just straight line and you were running ahead. You only win rings from beating races in first place, not Chao toys or anything. And you have to sit through a giant load time every time you load up a cup. I can't tell if my Chao is winning by looking at the race because the camera's behind everyone, or like in front of everyone. Not just the Chao that I own and zoomed into her, so that I can immediately tell how far away she is from everyone else. So just watching the race is kind of a confusing mess. And again, because there's no stamina bar that goes down when I hit the cheer button, and I can clearly see the Chao running faster, it feels pointless to try to cheer. Even third place wins you rings, which is great. Although it feels wrong having the Karate Stadium music play after a race. It feels like it's clumsy, misaimed, like, let's try to appeal to people by having it. I mean, this is a Chao music, right? Even though it's the wrong one. And after that, I noticed a Chao actually throw away a square fruit that she tried to go up to eat on her own. Why can a Chao decide to eat on its own if it's full enough to reject the fruit later? I was kind of disappointed by that because I wanted Chao to be unable to reject food because they weren't hungry anymore, because that's annoying. I mean, I guess it does prevent you from force feeding them until they're 99 on stamina, but the sheer amount of time that's going to take, you think that would be enough of a demotivator. It does remind me that I do really like the fact that this Chao system gets rid of the whole Chao don't like the taste of certain fruit, and you gotta memorize which fruit they hate so you won't give it to them, because they won't eat it. Thankfully they got rid of that, so I don't have to worry about certain Chao refusing to eat square fruit because they like round fruit instead. So, at the very least, like them getting rid of something, making it less in depth, helped a little bit. But remember when I complained about Chao looking the same? Well, notice how every Chao is a hero neutral Chao. Well, no, like a hero normal Chao. I don't think there actually are flying Chao and power Chao and so on in this game, because they had plenty of different stats leveled up when they evolved. They didn't just have the stamina stat. So I don't see how that's acceptable. They all look exactly the same, and there's also no animals either. It's just one of the things that gets rid of the charm of the original.